There we go. All right. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Racing Lanes Podcast. I'm your host, Rico Muhammad. I will be joined by my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. And tonight, our good friend, our resident insurance expert, Mr. Tommy Ruke, is joining us tonight. If you would, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, if you would do us a huge favor, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, especially if you're on YouTube. That helps us get out into a broader algorithm, maybe helps us get the show out to a broader audience. And if you find anything that we talk about tonight entertaining, useful at all, or if you know anybody that could use it, by all means, please share the show. With that being said, let me welcome in my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. Good evening, Chuck. How are you?
We're doing great, Rico. Things are going well. I spent the weekend down at the American Truck Historical Society show in York, PA, and I actually brought one of my old trucks down. It was lots of fun. And unfortunately, I got some bad news from Tommy yesterday. Buster Anderson, who is the co-founder of NASTIC, he's passed away.
Yeah, I got the email today about that.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at my emails yet today, but our condolences to Buster's family and to David and to everybody at NASTIC. I know that the NASTIC group is like one big family. You certainly have our best wishes, and Buster was one hell of a guy. He really was.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And with that being said, hopefully on a better note, let's welcome our good friend, Mr. Tommy Ruke, to the show.
Hey, Tommy.
Hey, guys. How are you, Rico and Chuck? I'm doing well, other than we got about 4 inches here of rain today in Fort Myers, but that and the bridge is closed down. Other than that, it's been good.
Well, that means you won't have to cut the grass tonight. It's too wet.
We needed the rain, but it's. I couldn't walk today. I've been trying to walk, staying in kind of a shape here. I'm just writing some talks and all, and trying to get the gospel out.
Well, you know what? You should have put the running shoes away for walking, or the walking shoes, and grabbed a rowboat. You could have rowed down the street, got your exercise that way, Tom.
Or it's almost deep enough for a ski boat. There's actually a development east of here called Lehigh Acres. And the joke is, it used to be an old military base, and I actually have been water skiing out of the pond that was made out of in my youth.
Somebody's got too much time on their hands.
Yes. This have been here for so many years.
Well, there's lots going on in trucking, and there's lots going on in insurance. One of the things I need to ask you right away, right now, so I remember a while ago you were on the show when things were going crazy and people were spending $250,000 on a Freightliner Cascadia and all sorts of ridiculous nonsense. And you had warned everybody at the time, for God's sakes, get an evaluation on your truck. So if something happens, get an appraiser with a proper appraisal. If something happens, you got a leg to stand on. Well, now we know that $250,000 Freightliner is probably worth about $60,000 if you could sell it in this market. What happens now? What are our listeners supposed to do? That first of all, so they bought this $240,000 or $250,000 truck that's now gone down in value, but they still owe that much. What happens now in this type of a downturn market on equipment?
All right, let's answer it two ways, okay? First off, in a scenario where they owe the money on it more than it's worth, if they buy gap coverage and some of the contracts they sign has gap coverage in it, it is available in the insurance market. It would be tough to add it on if they didn't start with. What that pays is the difference between ACV and what you owe on it, no more than a limit. So if they insure it for what they owe on it, then they get it paid off if it's a total loss. But that's available in the marketplace. They need to check their lending companies to see if it's built into their lending contracts or the bank contracts. A lot of those build in what's called gap coverage. The gap is between what it's worth and what you owe on it. The other thing is really not much you can do. The insurance companies are not going to reduce the value midterm. What they do need to do is do it when it renews. When the policy renews, put it down to the level of what it's worth. As you said, try and find out what it's worth. They might not even, Chuck, need to go to the get quote appraisal. If they put that information in some of these websites they have out here for the auctions and all this stuff, they can get a real close estimate of what it would sell at.
Okay. Now, let me ask you on this gap coverage. So they will be able to cover them because, you know, there are some cases out there where the truck is worth $60,000 or $70,000.
They'll cover the gap. That's what the gap coverage is. As long as they insure it for $100,000 or $200,000, whatever the note
Right.
is.
Okay, and the insurance company will now. Do all insurance companies allow that? Do they all sell that gap coverage?
It's a standard policy term in a policy. Some insurance companies are more reluctant to do it. Some insurance build it into their physical damage automatically.
So
you
if
just
you
have
have
to
an insurance company, let me ask you something. If you have an insurance company that says, no, we're not doing that, can you buy that gap insurance from another insurance company?
You can, or go back to the lending institution, see if you can buy it from them.
Okay, but it is always available.
Yes,
for our
available.
listeners.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was my. Now I heard something else over the weekend. There was a gentleman at the truck show in York, and he was getting on in years, and he wasn't able to. He drove the truck himself, had a great driving record, and I think the guy was close to 90 years old, but he never stopped driving. He'd been driving for 70 years, and the insurance company decided they don't want to insure him anymore. Nobody wants to insure him. Is there I was just really curious. Is there a marketplace where these older drivers, because some of them are that age, they are 85 and 90 years old, and they're out there. There's not a lot of them, but the ones that, you know, they're still out there earning a living, pounding pavement. That's their life.
Well, my joke is I'm not there. I'm getting closer than we want to, but my problem is I can't stay awake for the 12 hours to or not go to the bathroom about 4 times in that period of time.
Well, yeah,
I can physically do it. I'm not worried about that because I'm in enough shape to do that part of it. Why? Because there's 2 types of insurance that the government requires: auto insurance and work comp. So the states have to set up a pool, no matter how bad you are, the risk, to buy it out of your assigned risk or the reinsurance program. So it is available. They need to approach your agent and put it in the assigned risk program. Some states call it the reinsurance program, but it's the residual market. And it might be more expensive, slightly more expensive, but if he's got a clean record or she's got a clean record, no problems, it might not be as expensive as you think.
Okay. So it is available.
It's based on the MVRs and things like that, but it is available. Just got to find an agent to put them in that system.
Okay.
In fact, the funny thing, I did a class one time to the residual market underwriting. So one I've never done before, because I didn't talk about what's a good risk, a bad risk. I've talked about how to find out what's a good risk and a bad risk, because they're going to write them that way. It was kind of opposite of what I typically did. ASAPS is the overall program that sees all the states. And again, if they'll email Rico or you or me, I can point them to that if it ever comes up, Chuck.
Okay, thank you. Now, what's the current situation like with truck insurance? Are there more companies entering the market right now, insuring trucks? What's going on from your?
It's basically leveled off for the rate increases and all. Our biggest concern right now, and this also will make the rates a little less, is we got truckers going out of business. Nobody needs to tell us all that. And so just like supply and market, they've got to run enough premium. So they don't want to run anybody away. So they're more tolerant as long as they're a good risk. And there's not much pressure to raise premium, that part of it, unless they just have a disaster record and the insurance company wants to get rid of it. And there's a couple of new people in the marketplace, but as we talked about before, Chuck and Rico, I think I have, all of them have a tech deal to it. You got to share your ELD information. You got to have cameras. You got to do this kind of stuff to get a favorable rate and show that you're doing it all right. I mean, they know what's out there. And so there's half a dozen markets that have come in with that. A couple of them haven't done too well, but a couple of them have done well.
But you're definitely seeing more and more of the insurance companies getting on the bandwagon with insisting that data be shared and that everybody has cameras, inward and outward facing.
Yeah.
That's becoming more common, I would think. Is it not?
Yeah, there's no set way. Some of them subsidize the cameras, and the reason they do that, now they co-own the information, which is a problem. Some of them will have a rate and they'll give a credit if you share the information off the rate. Some of them get based on performance. There's one company that quarterly pays a dividend based on how you've been driving. Some of what you see in the auto advertisements on TV where you drive safely. That so everybody's trying to play around with it, but it's going to happen. The information's there, and the other thing we're looking at is the driver's assistance program, the stuff with the lane deviation, crash deviation, ADS, automatic driver assistance program, the cruise control, adaptive cruise control, things like this. Some of that stuff should be retrofitted, and it will end up paying an insurance before it's over, and crashes too, Chuck.
Right. Well, crashes, of course. You know what? If you've had a lot of crashes, nobody wants to insure you.
Right. Reduce the crashes and that. Rico, right. Do you have any equipment on your truck? You have cameras?
I do. I have a dash camera, and I've actually got one of those eagle eye systems as well that gives you the cameras on both of the mirrors and the dash camera.
You don't have any mirrors?
Yeah, I got the mirrors, but I got the cameras on the mirrors as well.
Do you? Okay, because that's the Spanky guy that put that together. He's done a program with us who went out and showed the FMCSA that those mirrorless eagle eyes were safe. But that you get the view of the side view better with those things. If you get used to it, it's good. So
Tommy, is that the one? Is that the truck Rico and I saw one years ago in Atlanta at a trade show? Is that the one the system that has no mirrors, just the cameras?
Right. Yeah. Right.
I got to tell you, and I said it to Rico at the time. I'm not in favor of that at all, because what the heck do you do? You're running down the interstate. You're in a city like Atlanta is a great example, because it's such a busy city. And the technology fails. What the heck do you do?
Chuck, I can't answer that question because it's got some redundant systems in it, but obviously sometimes, like me getting on the show tonight, things fail. But they actually now have them coming out where they have night vision in it better and can look through fog and all. And it's actually, you see better than you do with mirrors.
I have seen them where they have both of them. It'll have the eagle eye system, and it also will still have the mirrors as well.
Economically, the camera, the mirror being removed saves about 2% of the fuel cost. Saves about 2% on fuel.
Sure, because there's not that much drag.
Right. So that pays for the system.
Yeah, it's funny. This some of this technology has been around for a while. As far as I know that having a camera beside your mirror, I saw that, I bet you, 35 years ago on a motorhome that a guy was driving in, I think it was New York or Vermont. He was a guy from Quebec that had a great big motorhome, and you could see when you looked inside, you could see the cameras on both mirrors. Now, he did have mirrors, but he had cameras on both mirrors, because these guys that drive motorhomes aren't necessarily proficient at driving a large vehicle.
Yeah, and those are things you can't have the cameras on the mirror itself. What they had to figure out when they did this program, and it was tested that showed it worked, but there was FMCSA rule that you had to have mirrors. And so they had to go show the officers to have exceptions for this technology.
Yeah, I remember reading about that in Transport Topics after that they had taken one to Washington, D.C.
Right.
And taken out a bunch of dignitaries, and then they signed off on it.
Right.
So tell us what else is going on.
Well, one of the things that Rico, have you heard, or Chuck, have you heard about these people getting their ID stolen, their DOT number stolen, and somebody's using it, and then they're getting a lot of violations and can't get loads? Have we talked about that?
We haven't, but
yeah.
I've heard a little bit of something about it.
Well, it's getting rapid, and it take nothing to do. All you got to do is take a cardboard and dummy up a lease and put somebody's DOT number on the side, and you get inspected. It's going to that person because the officer doesn't check anything other than you have a lease meeting, and everybody can draw up a dummy lease. I list to ABC Trucking Company. They don't verify. They don't do anything. Now you run up a couple bad inspections or a crash. Now you get on the blacklist with the shippers. You can't get a load. You can't get insurance. You can't clean it up. This is why my strong recommendation is that anybody listening to us, Rico, needs to check their CSA scores and inspections and violations at least every month, if not more often. They need to have a system where you can be reported when you have it. And when you do it, if you look at your inspection reports, it has the VIN numbers of your equipment, and make sure that VIN number is your VIN number. If not, take steps now. Data to it now before it gets into the system.
Yeah, this fraud is just doesn't know no ends.
No, this cargo.
So Tommy, let me ask you something. If a carrier finds out that there's VIN numbers that have violations and they're not their violations or their VIN numbers, how easy is it to get those violations expunged from their record?
If they do it quickly, Chuck, you can data queue it and everybody's aware of it. It takes a while, maybe a month or so, but it'll clean it up.
Yeah, that means that, what you're saying really is if one of these fraudsters does that to somebody, the poor victim, let's say it's somebody that's got 10 trucks, they're not going to get loaded for the month.
They're out of business.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a month before the scores go down. They change the scores every month. So if you catch it during the month, you should do that. Talking about fraud, let me tell you a story. I was visiting an agent, and we talked about cargo theft, where now you've got a load, and in mid-load they tell you to take it somewhere else. Load it somewhere else. And so this agent was business insured and said, other day I got a call and we delivered a load that was supposed to be here and give us a location. And the company who was delivering called, where's the load is? They said, we delivered this other location. They actually found out the location. It was at a building site. They went to the contractor and made the contractor load it back on the truck and take it to the original destination. They were able to check back on that part of it. But this is how this stuff is happening. If you get a note and get a load and tell you to take it to somewhere else, don't do it until you stop it and go back to the original person who gave you that load. The broker, the shipper, and talk to them and say, is this legitimate now? We're doing this and send it to a warehouse, and then by the time they find about it, the warehouse is empty. It's not there anymore. This double brokerage is becoming a real problem. I've got a risk right now that double broker. One person accepted it, gave it to another trucker. Now they load fell off the load hits the car on the sideway. It was landscape rock here, and there's $1 million claim coming, and both insurance companies are involved in it. The one who got it first and the one who got it gave it to the person and actually had to crash.
So Tommy, I got a question for you. What happens when you have cargo that gets rejected from a shipper and they tell you to dispose of it? What do you they tell you they reject the load, they tell you to dispose of the cargo. What is the proper way that should be handled?
Rico, you're talking about the food products, I assume.
Right.
Well, yeah, food products, or even I seen someone with some Coca-Cola, like soda products.
It's food product.
Well, you got to find out why it's loaded, why it's rejected. During the pandemic, I know of a load that got rejected because they said it was contaminated because the seal was broke with COVID, but that's not there. you got to look at your contract. If the contract says in it, and this is where your truckers need to run away. I'm talking about other than food goods. Okay, set that aside for the minute. All right, food goods is a different situation because of the federal act that you have to deal with food goods. Because the Food Modernization Safety Act, FSMA.
Right.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But if your contract doesn't say this, then you have the right to salvage. Some contract says no salvage, or the shipper controls the salvage. You got to run away from those kind of contracts, or make sure that you're dealing with a shipper, because you're going to take a partial load, turn a total load, because they don't want it in the marketplace because they got their brand on it. Safety thing here. Any other thing other than that, you have the right to if they reject it, you have the right to sell it, Rico, and take the money and anything, take your fees out of it and give them the rest that you sold it for.
What about if they reject it or whatever, or they don't accept it? Can you consign the entire load to yourself?
Yeah. Well, there's a yes. I mean, it depends on the paperwork, but yeah, you don't have to give it all to them, but you have the right to recover it and get your fees out of it, at least that much, because that's what you had invested in it. I tried to call the whole thing, Rico, and make him come get it. But anyway, but legally, they owe that part since they own some of it. Now, the FSMA Act is important. And I cannot emphasize this enough. If you're hauling any refrigerated product, any food product in bulk that can be consumed by humans or animals, you've got to make sure you got the right cargo policy. Because three things. The first thing is you don't want a spoilage. You don't even want a reefer breakdown concession in it, and there's policies out there without a spoilage exclusion in it, without reefer breakdown. They pay for it. There's some policies called shipper driver ignorance, where you can, if you don't turn the Thermo King on, you still got coverage, E&O kind of coverage. You also have to worry about it, because what happens is when it's rejected and there's no damage, it's just adulterated. They don't want it. It's no damage. In that case, all the policies you write, including the law that prevails all cargo called CARMAC, says it has to be direct damage. Well, there's no direct damage. Your policy says we pay for direct damage to cargo. There's no direct damage here. There's a couple of policies out there that do not require direct damage. And so you need to talk and find the right policies if you're hauling food goods. It's worthwhile for another $300,000, $500,000 more, Rico, to make sure you got coverage in it. But the FSMA says that you have to clean your trailer out. You have to tell them what load was hauled previously. And if it gets there and the shipper, the receiver rejects it, you cannot put it back in the marketplace until somebody says it can be put back in the marketplace.
Because it could be tampered with or
contamination.
Something.
Right.
I remember hearing about something like that from a friend of mine that had a load of sausage or prepared meat, luncheon meat or something, stolen out of his yard. Not for long, for about a day. They did find it. Seal was broken. Customer said that needs to be destroyed because it was out of care and control, and the seal was broken. We don't know. And the reefer read perfectly. There wasn't any issue with contamination that way. But what they were worried about is that some idiots got in there and did something to the meat to poison it.
Well, yeah, sometimes they used to give that to get it signed off to prisons and places like that, but it's not easy to get rid of now, even in those kind of things in the marketplace, because of the fear. Anything with warranty. I mean, I use this example, Rico, that you might not think about, but if you have a load of car seats and the travel turns over, the whole load's contaminated. That you can't prove that those seats were not damaged, so you just bought the whole load because of the fear of them being damaged.
Yeah, it's my understanding that if you've got if you have a car seat in your car, a child's car seat, and you get rear-ended, even if there's no kid in the car, the seat is no good anymore because it's.
I had that happen with my daughter.
That's what I've heard.
I think we lost him on his internet, Rico. No, he came back.
Oh, we're back.
For a second, Chuck. My daughter had exactly the thing happen. She got rear-ended and did about $1,000 worth of damage to her car, but ended up having to pay another $500 for 2 new car seats.
And there was nothing wrong with the car seat, but
No, the kids were in the car seats. Nothing wrong with it, but they want to make sure of that, not later. Yeah.
yeah.
So there are things like that. And this is why new cars have the same problem. Both brand and warranty. If you have anything on a car, they're going to crush the car for new cars, particularly because they can't afford to put it in the marketplace and they can't afford to for the warranties and their brand on it.
Wow. And that's why insurance is so expensive today.
You know what that word is, don't you, Chuck? Lawyers.
Yeah. Now, speaking of lawyers, there's been some states, your state being one of the first ones, that have put an end to nuclear settlements. I understand.
Well, no, they haven't put an end to nuclear settlements. Actually, Iowa just came up with a cap on other than compensatory damages. Compensatory damages are what you actually can prove. Your bills, medical bills, life pound, the other stuff, pain and suffering is the things that blow it up after that part of it. What Florida said, and is a major move, some other states have tried to copy it. If it's something called comparative negligence. If the other party is more than 50% or more than 50% liable, they cannot make a claim. So this is where cameras become so important, because 70% of the cases or accidents are caused by autos, by the four-wheeler. So if the four-wheeler caused a crash, they can make no claim because they're over 50% liable. Florida. The other thing is that the plaintiff's attorneys would have expert witnesses, and Florida did not make the expert witness to divulge how often they were experts for that one lawyer. Now they have to do that. A lot of times they also had the medical bills, and they posted what the medical company charged, not what they end up having to pay. And this is called the postage. So now they only can claim what they exactly had to pay, not what the doctor charged less the discounts.
Okay.
So and they moved the statute of limitations to 2 years. So we made a lot of stuff. And this gets back to what Rico talked about, is cameras are invaluable and things like this to prove this. We are getting some relief in that area.
So what states, you said Iowa has done this?
Iowa's done it. Florida's done it. Texas has done it. Louisiana's done it. I think one other one I don't know about now, but you can Google it, the tort reform from trucking companies. American Trucking Association get it because they subsidize they become parties to these lawsuits.
So let me ask you, when Texas did that, because I know that the insurance companies, or I'm under the understanding, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, they charge you a surcharge going through Texas because there's been so many crazy claims and stuff there, correct?
Well, not a surcharge, but it's underwriting consideration. Yeah, premium.
Has this lowered those premiums going into Florida, into Texas?
It has more people looking at writing coverage in Florida and Texas, and it's going to take time to triple down because we actually have to file the rates back based on our experiences. But yeah, it's going to. It's got more. It's more competitive now than it was before. Let's put it that way, Chuck. Okay. We'll see it. Yeah. But the nuclear verdicts, it's still there. There was a American Truck Association. Rob Mosley was on a panel talking about how they have to prepare the witnesses and how they fight these nuclear verdicts, and how you have to be just change the whole method of how to approach these things to fight the plaintiff's attorneys.
Yeah, it's definitely war, and people need to understand that going into this business, that's why safety is so important, and having a culture of safety is so damn important, because you've got to be able to prove that you have taken. Where did Tommy go?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, that you've taken every precaution, that you've done things right all along. Yeah,
and this is why, going back to the information that the insurance companies are asking for, your ELD information. Now, when I talk about ELD information, I'm sorry, it's not the hours of service. We're talking about the information that the ELD reads from the ECM of the engine. This is what we're talking about. The hard brakes,
Right.
Lane changing, acceleration, things like that. That's what we're talking about, that part of the ELD, and where you're going exactly, because it gets within a mile of where you're actually going, the geo part of that. This is what we're talking about. This is going to be, the plaintiff's attorneys know about that too. And so they ask for it in court. I mean, this is the whole world. More information you have. I've said all the time, Chuck, all this stuff, even CSA, the good and the bad. The good, we got more information than ever. The bad part, attorneys are using against us because they're not good. And their information is not good.
Yeah, it's just, everybody's having such a hard time out there right now that I think that some of the maintenance and things like that have fallen behind because people just, they don't realize how important it is to keep it up.
Well, my strong recommendation for anybody who's a 1-2 trucking company is you own nothing in your trucking company that you don't need to. No property, no buildings, even if you lease the trucks, even to yourself, and set it up right. So you can survive a bad crash.
Yeah, keep everything in a separate company. Your trucks should be in a separate company and lease it to yourself.
Right, you got to set it up right and get somebody like Bridget Glitch or somebody to set that up. System like that. That's what you need to figure out. But back again to this the theft of your DOT number. Rico, we need to do a survey sometime and ask how many of your listeners, the people here, have ever have had that happen to them, because this is really something that unfortunately is raised 2 or 3 times coming across my desk.
Yeah, I know of a guy personally that happened to. Somebody was using their DOT numbers.
This is why you got to check. Now, have you got your new portal? Can you get into your portal now? Did you set that up after? Because things changed last December 31st. Everybody's got to have a portal to be able to go see their inspections and their drivers and things like that, Rico. But they need to look at that stuff at least weekly. At their 34-hour restart break, go to the computer and see if they've go into their portal, put their PIN number in, and see if they've got inspections and look at the VIN numbers of the vehicles.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know what? Even if you've got one truck, make sure nobody's because I have heard of fraud being put against people with one truck. What these people do is they steal your identity and they do all sorts of things.
And even with the DOT office, when a crash happens, you're going to be named in the crash. Now, you can get out of it, and your insurance company get you out of it, but it's a lot of aggravation.
Yeah. And you have that month of people not wanting to load you till you get it cleaned up.
And we talked about, I think last time, about the importance to make sure when you receive the load from the shipper or the broker that they're a legitimate broker. Now, there's a proposal in the FMCSA on the broker's bond that if they ever have to pay a claim out of it, then you don't have the $75,000 there anymore, because that's an aggregate amount, not a per occurrence amount.
That's right.
Or you're out of trust, so you're going to have to re-up whatever it takes to $75,000.
The $75,000 is ridiculous because it doesn't go very far to protect the trucker.
Chuck, how much was it 5 years ago?
It was less. It was 25,000 or something.
Try 10.
Jeez, that's
it was a $10,000 bond.
Yeah, that's 2 trips.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's 2 trips. That's all it is, and it doesn't go very far. And we're hearing stories of some of these brokers going down for a fortune.
Oh yeah,
look at that one company, Convoy. How much did they go down for?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and leave everybody hung out there. I mean, it doesn't take, because it takes about a month and a half, 2 months for this stuff to recycle before it comes, because your first effort is I tell you, and I'm not a big advocate of factoring companies. Just because of the charge, I would hope that the trucker goes in financially well enough that they can ride the 30-day receivables out, which is take about $15,000 in cash. But one thing we'll check on: factoring companies understand the brokers who don't pay.
And we're not gonna never get a factoring company to sponsor this show. I tell you, we give those factoring companies hell on this show.
I didn't say that. I said they have usefulness there, but I hope they're financially sound enough, Rico. I mean, what's your margin? 5, 6, 7%. How can you pay somebody 2, 3%? Today with interest rates, even more than that to that part of it.
We definitely talk about it. We definitely try to talk about it and expose, make people more aware of what the true percentages that they are dealing with when you're dealing with a factoring company. You probably be better served if you had a credit card, because at least if you're paying 22% on an annual basis on a credit card, that's better than a 22% on a 30-day rolling calendar.
Yeah, well, I would hope they would pay I would hope they'd be financially sound, that they would pay it off on a monthly basis or something. This is what you'd have, to ride out the. I figured one time, Rico, it costs about. I use retail agents. If you want to add a truck to a policy, when I ask them, Rico, show me you got 12,000 free cash, because that's
you're right.
That's why it's going to take you to ride out the receivables from the shipper.
That's how we used to. That's how we always ran trucking businesses. Was if you wanted to add an extra truck, you'd have to have the money in the bank to cover the time from the time that truck did its first load until that check came in, the payment came in for that load.
Yeah, well, and the old days, I know my father, if you go on an advance, it costs 2 points.
Yeah. Everything, but now, and I'm not here to badmouth the factoring companies. I think there's a place for them. The place is an emergency, but you can't run your business on factored money. It's too expensive. Now, It was okay. You could get away with it during the pandemic because everybody was making stupid money. But now we're in the real world, and you know what? A 95% operating ratio is pretty damn good. Well, that's 5% profit, really. How the hell do you pay 30% for your money if you got 5% profit?
Well, even Chuck, even 6, 8% money, which is the interest rate today, you would get favorable rate.
Yes, it's 6% a year.
Yeah, I know.
Not 2.5% a month.
Right. Yeah.
Well, big difference. No,
I understand. My friend Hank Seaton was on the show the other day.
He was on. When did we have him on? About 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah, he's still hot to trot on this fitness deal. Part of it.
Yeah, we about due to get him back on. We had him on about 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah, he and I had a long talk last week. He told me he was on the show with you guys.
Yeah, he's like you. He's a lifetime of knowledge. That man, just like you.
Yeah.
Still fighting the good fight.
He says he's getting old. He doesn't know about the fight, but we did find out that there's a safety registration requirement in the FAST Act that the government is looking at here, and we don't know what it's like. I did get a personal email back from the director when I questioned what it was, because they brought it up on that listening session a couple weeks ago on the 29th about this. It's now where you have to prove you're a safe operator to be able to keep your authority, keep your registration. And that would be a plus on the highway, but it's got to be done right. That's what Chuck wants to. Hank wants to come up with something out here that you're satisfied, not the state and finish determination.
Well, it's funny, guys. Everybody wants to bring back the good old days. The good old days, you had to have money to start a trucking company, and you had to be grounded.
Yeah, that's the problem. Rico, have you ever been audited by the DOT?
I have.
You have.
I have.
What precipitated it?
It was my new entrance audit.
Oh, besides your new interest on it.
But not ever since my new entrant audit, that was the only audit that I had. And thanks to NASDAQ and the information that I got through those guys, they helped me. They set me up to pass with flying colors on my new entrant audit.
Yeah, it's just you just got to be able to recite the book and verify you hadn't been in contact with any other trucking company before.
But they did a little bit more than that. They pulled some records and everything. They went back through and pulled records, pulled log books, all that stuff.
Well, yeah. They did it at your location? Okay, because sometimes they don't remote where you send it in. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually had to do one when I was working with Traffics. We opened up a branch in Illinois, and a year after we started it, or maybe 8 months, we got called in for a new carrier audit to the Illinois Department of Transport, and they were very professional, but they went through everything, and we came in with a box of files to show that we had everything they needed, and they were very satisfied. But I did notice, I've got big ears if you haven't noticed, and I was listening to the tables around me, and even the ones that were missing things, they were really good. They were showing the guys what they needed to do to be compliant. They're very fair.
Well, yeah, some of it is that way. Some of it is they want to treat you to make sure you're right. They're not here to shut you down. They're here to make sure you're safe and where you're not, to warn
That's
you
right.
and to help you. It's the ones who just blow them off or know nothing that they really get hammered.
Yeah. We've had at Traffics through the years, because remember we've been in business since the 70s. We'd had a couple of carrier audits through the years back when it was more common. And I remember getting one, and the DOT officer came in. He said, "I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not here to shut anybody down. I'm just here to show people how to comply." And he was good. There were a couple of areas where that needed improvement, but overall we got a satisfactory rating.
Right. This is and they got to be a way for them to do more of these, at least desktop audits.
I agree. You know what?
Legitimate. I mean, this is the
from what I understand, I think I've read something or heard something where they're getting ready to give each state a huge grant to be able to go out and do more audits.
That's what Hank's trying to do. That's Hank's
I heard they were going to give states something like $420 million or something like that.
Well, this is part of this fraud fighting deal. Yeah, there's money out there now. Fraud has become so prevalent with everybody, the government knows they have to do something about it. This is why this new fraud registration, where now you're going to have to be screened. They're going to prove you actually have a location, you're a U.S. citizen, and do all this background check and all before you get new authority. The question is how they're going to do the ones with the 150 every year with authority. They're thinking about even making the 150 have to be updated every year. This is all going to happen in the next 6 months.
Well, you know what? I'm glad to see it because it'll level the playing field.
Right. It'll keep the fraudulent brokers and truckers out of the marketplace.
Let me ask you something. What's the deal with being a U.S. citizen? If you were a landed immigrant, they wouldn't let you.
No. I didn't say citizen. You were legitimate in the U.S., had a location in the U.S.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think it levels the playing field. We get rid of some of these jokers that have really messed up the industry. And well, I think in a perfect world, what we should do is every carrier should get a desktop audit once a year. They should have to pay for it and have consulting companies doing it remotely, and they get part of the money and the state gets part of the money. I think that would really level the playing field.
Well, you know what the ridiculous part of it? You know how long It's been the same fee for your authority?
Oh, forever.
Yeah, since 1980, $300.
You know what? $300 in 1980 is probably worth $1,200 today. Am I right?
Yeah, if you want to fund this stuff, the answer to that, Chuck, is they need to raise the fee so you can, because you could do this stuff on it for, even up every year 500 something.
Yeah, it should be, because you're carrying somebody else's product. There's got to be some, and I do not want, trust me, I lived those days, as did you, Tommy. I don't want the days of re-regulation or anything like that, but we certainly want to keep the riffraff out of this industry.
Well, and what you said that's important. You're holding somebody else's product, but you're on the road with a lot of people.
Yes. Well, there's two things. Number one, it's a safety aspect.
Right. Yeah.
That you're piloting an 80,000-pound vehicle down the road. That's number one. Number two is you are, as a customer of mine used to say, because he had owned a trucking business before he went into another business. You're basically taking title to it's under your care and control while you've got it.
Take possession of my product for $1 million, $100,000, $200,000, and no bond, no security, nothing that you're going to deliver it.
Yes, exactly. Or tamper with it.
Right.
That's the other thing.
I'll never tell you that, but one Thanksgiving we didn't have enough turkey. My father had a load of turkey. It got delivered about 5 turkeys short.
Not 5.
I mean, they wouldn't do that. You know better than that, right?
But back in those days, if you tampered with an interstate load, you were in big trouble.
Right. Yeah.
I remember that was a more serious offense than kidnapping, but not as serious as murder. And now the law has no teeth.
Yeah, they can't process. And this is why you think about it, Chuck. How easy it would be to steal a load. How easy to get rid of a load of Coca-Cola or sports drinks or things like that part of it. And if you get caught, nobody's going to put you in jail for it. And,
Nope.
it's a white collar. And how they're going to find you once it's gone? There's no serial numbers.
That's right. And you know what? I've seen your flea markets down in the U.S., and I swear some of those one of those flea markets in Florida or Texas could handle 44,000 pounds of Coca-Cola on their own there.
Right. My comment is flea markets and non-franchise convenience stores.
Yeah.
And in rural agriculture areas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rid of all that stuff all the time. And so, there's got to be some protection, because I feel I'm like you. We wouldn't be here if we didn't love trucking and love truckers. And they have treated me well all of my life. But it's a different marketplace than it was in those days, Chuck, because we're dealing with different people. Not only the new technology, but people
it's a different world.
who the things we can't control, which is bother us, from fuel costs to, from fuel costs to driver costs to, the stuff that we got in the marketplace, and the revenue is down. It's just, it's tough right now out there. Rico, I understand you're having a little tough too. Your shipper wants to think you were as good as you thought you were.
Yeah, it's a little tough right now. We're going through a little bit of a tough time, but as they say, tough times don't last always. Tough people do. So we're gonna keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
We got to remember the ones that we've done that with, though, and that's important. Hopefully, the shippers have some value for consistent longevity. I've always said that what they pay for, Rico, is not to move something from point A to point B, but to be at point A when you're needed. Problem is, right now, there's too many people who can get to point A quicker than you can, or at the same time. That's how the marketplace goes.
Yeah. But hopefully we'll be back in business here hopefully by the end of the month.
I hope so.
We got our fingers crossed. But I'm looking at the time we coming up on. These hours just go by so quick whenever we have you on, Tommy. You had an announcement. I thought did you want to make your announcement that you were saying that?
Going back again, and what I'm trying to do, and they can talk to your insurance agent. We're going to roll it out, we think, July 1st through the insurance industry, where you can be sent an email. Rico, I'll ask you this. If you got an email from your insurance agent at least once a month, but every time your truck with your D2 number got inspected, and what you got, your CSA scores, we'll look at your CSA score every month to go up or down, chart that says that. If you got inspected, it'll show the VIN number and the violation of the inspection, and then then as a download, you can also look at your last 12 months, 2 years of that for your scores. Would that be useful to get that stuff, to just look at it, to keep track of that?
Oh, absolutely. Because, like I say, a lot of people don't even bother to pull that information up. And if the agent is taking the time to send it to you in the email, it definitely adds a huge convenience factor to it.
And all you have to do is check to make sure that's your truck.
Right.
And then we'll have a link to show you how to data queue it, a link to explain IFTAs and all that kind of stuff. We got 20 videos connected with it too that you have, and we're also going to do a monthly listening session that you can dial into and ask questions.
That's great. That's a good deal right there.
Tell your agent I'll talk to Bob. Okay, fell on that part of it.
All right.
I'll tell him you bought into it. All right. I know he's not your agent, but I think you know who I'm talking about down there.
Yes, sir.
I think he is his agent. I met him at your function that time.
Well, yeah, the agency. I know that's his agency.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not sure that's actually the sales rep that Rico deals with, but maybe his son. He's been a part of. But the whole point, and the reason I'm doing this, and this is my last project, hopefully, Rico, because it's so important now with all this theft. You got to stay ahead of it. The only way you stay ahead of it is you got to see what's happened to your truck every day, or at least once things happen like that. How many times truck with a driver not turning? Particularly on an operator won't turn in, they had an inspection and had a violation.
Oh, yeah. You know what? We changed that when we started paying for inspections and bonusing for clean inspections.
Right. This kind of stuff. I mean, it's just, even fender benders, sometimes they don't turn them in. Oh. And now, and now it's on your score and they're gone. So at least you can track these things and data queue the ones that, and we're going to hook you up with a lawyer to help you get data queue, help solve your problem. But if you do it early enough, you can get rid of it. Because I think the government understands these things, and they are concerned about it as we are.
Yeah, of course, they need trucks to haul stuff, keep America and Canada moving.
But it's called Safety Guide.
Okay. Sounds like a great program that you guys are going to have coming out there. So,
it's all the technology that they have, the computer technology to be able to do this.
With that being said, Tommy, we get ready to wrap this baby up. How can people get a hold of you if they want to ask you a question or two?
Very simple. My name, Tommy Ruke. It's up in front of you. Only one word, not at the high, at AOL.com.
There it is.
The name up there, one word, not two, at AOL.com. And then it says, you got mail when I sign in.
All right. Well, Tommy, we definitely appreciate you for taking time out of your schedule to come on and join us. It's always a pleasure whenever we get you on, and always a wealth of knowledge. So we definitely appreciate you for taking the time out. Well,
I feel fortunate that I grew up as a son of a trucker, and I try to give back every day because of that part of it. And it's been, I love that part, to share my knowledge about insurance and all, where more than most people know about that, to keep everybody on the highway.
Well, you know more than anybody.
Okay. Bye, folks.
Good night, Tommy. Appreciate you again.
See you guys.
Thanks so much.
Chuck, let the folks know how they can get a hold of you.
Yes, if anybody out there needs me, please just send me an email, chucksnow280@outlook.com, and put your phone number on it, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And with that, Rico, I'll let you back her into a hole for another week.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, we appreciate you guys for taking the time out to join us. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you took a little time to hang out with us. We're always grateful for you doing so. Like I said at the top of the show, if you found any of this information helpful, useful to anyone that you may know that's in the trucking industry, by all means, please share the video with them. Do us a huge favor as well before you on your way out. If you would like, share or subscribe to the video, we definitely appreciate that as well. And with that being said, we want you guys to stay safe out there, stay healthy, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise, and we'll talk at you same time, same place, God willing, next week. God bless you and good night.
Catch you on the flip flop.